All right, let's talk about it. The prostate exam. Just hearing those two words can make a lot of guys tense up, right? There's just so much anxiety, misinformation, and, let's be real, a whole lot of dread that comes with it. But what if we could actually change that narrative?
So, if you're sitting there feeling anxious just thinking about it, I want you to know something. You are absolutely not alone. It's a totally normal reaction, one that tons of men have. And you know what? That's completely okay. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to walk through exactly what happens, step by step, no taboos, nothing off limits. The whole idea here is to swap out that fear with facts. So let's dive in. Okay, so first things first, why are we even talking about this? Why is it so important? Well, it all boils down to this one small but really, really important gland.
So, the prostate. It's a pretty vital little gland, actually. It's involved in making semen, and it helps you control your urination. But here's the thing. As we get older, it can start to cause some problems. You might get benign enlargement, that's super common, or maybe inflammation, which is called prostatitis, and then there's the big one we all worry about, prostate cancer. And the most important thing to get right now is that these problems, they're often totally silent at first. You might not feel a single thing.
And that is exactly why this is so critical. I want you to read this. This is from someone whose life was literally saved by a routine exam. They found an extremely aggressive cancer, one he didn't even know was there. This isn't just some abstract statistic, This is about real people, real lives.
Okay, so we've covered the why. We get it. It's important. Now, let's get into the what. What does a screening actually involve? Because it's not just one thing. It's really a two-part deal. So you've got two key exams that work together. First up is the PSA test. Super simple. It's just a blood test that looks for a specific protein. Then you've got the digital rectal exam, the DRE. That's the physical check. And here's what you got to remember. They work as a team. A doctor can physically feel things like bumps or hard spots that a blood test would never show. So one doesn't replace the other. You really need both for a complete picture.
Now, for that PSA blood test, there's a little bit of prep you need to do, and it's all about getting an accurate result. See, certain things can temporarily spike your PSA levels and, cause a false alarm. So for about 48 hours before the test, you'll want to hold off on things like ejaculation, sex, or even a long bike ride. Super simple stuff, but it makes a huge difference in making sure your results are reliable. All right, deep breath. Let's talk about the part that everyone, and I mean everyone, worries about. The elephant in the room, the DRE, the digital rectal exam. This is the source of pretty much all the anxiety and all the bad jokes, right? So let's demystify it. Let's break it down and see what it really is.
Look, it's basically 3 super quick steps. Step 1, you get into position. You'll either lie on your side or bend over the table. Step 2, the doctor, who has done this thousands of times, uses a lubricated gloved finger to do a very quick check of the gland. And step 3, that's it. It's over. You get up, get dressed. That is the whole shebang. It's a clinical, professional, and ridiculously fast procedure. And when I say fast, I mean, look at this. 10 seconds. The actual exam is over in less time than it takes to tie your shoes. Seriously. Think about that for a second. 10 seconds of awkwardness, maybe a little discomfort, in exchange for potentially life-saving information. I promise you, the worrying you do beforehand is way, way worse than the exam itself.
All right, so now you know exactly what the exams are. Let's talk about how you can walk into that appointment feeling prepared, feeling like you're in the driver's seat. This is all about putting you in control. First off, be honest with your doctor. If you're nervous, just say so. They get it, I promise. Second, bring your family's medical history, especially if there's any prostate cancer in there. Third, make a little list of any symptoms you might have noticed. Doesn't matter how small they seem. And here's my favorite tip. Write down your questions before you go. Because you know how it is. You get in there and your mind just goes blank. Okay, so we've got the practical stuff down. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger hurdle, the emotional one. That feeling of, shame, or this weird idea that taking care of this stuff is somehow not manly. I really want this message to sink in. We have this this crazy idea in our culture that being tough means ignoring a health problem. That is just flat out wrong. You know what real strength is? Facing something uncomfortable head on, taking care of your health for the long haul. That is courage. That's what being a man is about.
And look, it's not just about you either. It's about being responsible to the people who love you, your partner, your kids, your family, all the people who are counting on you to be there for them for years to come. When you take care of yourself, you're really taking care of them too.
All right, the exam's done. You survived. So, what happens next? Let's quickly walk through what the outcomes could be so you're not left wondering. Okay, for most guys, by far, this is what happens. The doctor says everything looks good, see you next year. And that's it. You walk out of there with total peace of mind for another year. That is the most common, most likely result. But what if a result comes back a little high? First rule, do not panic. Check out this story. This guy's PSA was high, and you know why? He'd just been cycling. They just waited a few days, retested him, and boom, it was totally normal. So an abnormal result isn't a diagnosis. It's just a yellow flag, a sign that says, hey, let's look a little closer. And if your doctor does happen to feel something, or if the PSA is still high, the next step isn't panic. It's just more information. They'll probably order something like an ultrasound or an MRI to get a better look at what's going on. It's a calm, methodical process, just one step at a time. And taking this process seriously is so important because, well, we can't sugarcoat this part. The threat is very real. You look at data like this from Brazil, and you see that prostate cancer is the #2 cause of cancer death in men. That's why jumping on it early, why early detection is everything.
But I want to be crystal clear here. Even if there is a diagnosis, it is not the end. Not by a long shot. We have amazing, effective treatments today. And this single biggest factor in how well they work, you guessed it, early detection. Catching it early is the absolute key to winning.
So who needs to be thinking about this right now? Well, the general rule of thumb is to start talking to your doctor about it when you hit 45. And if you have a family history, like if your dad or your brother had it, you'll want to start that conversation even earlier. If that's you, this is your sign.
So there you have it. We've laid it all out. We know the exam is fast, we know it's simple, and we know for a fact that it saves lives. The fear is gone, replaced by facts. The power is completely in your hands now. So really, there's only one question left to ask. When's your appointment?